I tried for 7 years to solve the problems I had with James. When I finally got permanent residency in New York and was able to be with him, I chose to give up everything. Because when I applied for permanent residency, I overheard James talking to a friend about me on the phone. Emily is really nice, but after being together for so long, some habits become natural. Marrying her would be a way to give her an explanation. Yes, she knows that Sophia is my secretary. So what? She didn't even dare to argue in order to marry me. After all, who else would want to marry her but me? I took James' words to heart. On the day of the wedding, I turned around and accepted someone else's proposal. Later, James chased after me from New York to Chicago, but he could never find the same person who silently supported him in the past. Are you really determined to give up your permanent residency status? The staff were still persuading me, so I nodded and took back the application form. After 7 years of struggling in New York, I finally achieved my permanent residency status. But today I've given up completely. I no longer have a reason to stick around here. Can I give you a lift home? James came around the corner of the stairs. He didn't know that when I went to see him earlier, I overheard what he said to his friend. I was just about to speak up when his phone rang again. Seeing James's slightly frowning face and the way he paused as if he wanted to say something to me, I knew he couldn't accompany me today. That's fine. I'll take a taxi. James didn't say much else, just reminded me that our parents were meeting the next night, and then drove off. He didn't even notice that I was still holding the file. James, do you remember what we talked about when we were together? Do you remember our promise of 7 years? Cars drove by in the distance, picking up the fallen leaves on the streets of New York. If I had known it would turn out like this, I really shouldn't have made trouble for you in the first place. The ringing of my phone interrupted my memories. It was my mother calling. I knew without a doubt that she wanted to talk about the family gathering tomorrow. My parents have always felt resentment towards James' family. Our families are indeed very different. My parents were worried that I would be unhappy and advised me not to marry him. I have always insisted up until now. As James said, I don't know if it's because I love him so much or because I'm used to having him by my side. These past 7 years have been neither long nor short. I have already forgotten the initial excitement, and all that is left is the monotony of life and the fact that we have grown accustomed to each other's presence. I have already booked the restaurant for tomorrow, in Manhattan, so that I can take you there for a stroll. I pretended that everything was fine as I explained the arrangements for tomorrow to my parents. I also sent James the address of the restaurant, but he did not reply to me. Our previous chat history still stopped at the day before yesterday. In the past year, it always felt like we weren't on the same page. I left for work in the morning while he was still asleep, and I was already asleep when he got home in the evening. It's ridiculous that we hardly ever get to see each other and chat, even though we live together. This morning, he still couldn't come and pick me up, so I had to take a taxi to the office. I saw him carefully supporting his secretary's waist as he helped her sit in the passenger seat. In addition, James was carrying his secretary's pink bag in his hand. His current secretary is called Sophia. They were a college couple, but when they graduated, Sophia had to go abroad, and the two of them broke up peacefully. Because of some practical problems in life, they were both unable to let go after they broke up. A year ago, Sophia appeared downstairs at James' company with a suitcase. That day happened to be James' birthday. I had booked a restaurant in advance, prepared a gift, and deliberately left work early to find him. I took James' arm and told him about the plan for the evening. Before I could finish, I saw Sophia, crying bitterly. It looked as if they were just catching up like old school friends. A month later I learned that the assistant secretary who had worked for James for 5 years had been replaced by Sophia. Tomorrow's dinner gathering will have to be postponed a bit, because there's something going on at the office and I can't get away. My phone rang, and it was a message from James. The dinner meeting that we had been trying to arrange for a long time had once again been cancelled. I remembered that last time, my parents had waited at the airport for 10 hours because of a delayed flight. It was really hard for them in the cold. They finally got news that the flight had landed, but then the dinner meeting was cancelled because of something James had said. I could only tell them not to come. My parents were a little angry, thinking that I didn't have any opinions of my own. But in fact, before that, I really didn't want to give up on James, and I had given in again and again. This time, I finally understood clearly. It's useless to try to get something that isn't mine. Like countless times before, I simply replied to him this time. And just like before, he didn't say anything more. 10 minutes later, I saw a post from Sophia on WeChat. The cruise trip the CEO promised me had finally come true. She posted a cute selfie with the cruise tickets for tomorrow's trip to Dejima, which clearly had James and Sophia's names on them. In the past, this kind of post would have made me angry. I would have taken a screenshot and sent it to James, asking him if he was going out with his secretary instead of meeting his parents. Then I would have waited for his superficial explanation and apology. In the end, I had no choice but to forgive. After the incident, I realized that an unproductive argument would only make things worse. I casually gave Sophia's post a like, but it was deleted within 10 minutes. Meanwhile, James had sent me a message asking me to have dinner with him tonight. I took a taxi to the restaurant and showed the waiter my reservation. He looked a little surprised, but led me to the table. When I arrived, I realized why the waiter had looked a little embarrassed. This Western restaurant is popular with couples, and there were only 2 seats at the table. James and Sophia seemed to be discussing work, with papers in their hands, and they were having a good chat. The extra chair next to them seemed a bit awkward, just like the place where I was sitting. Sophia was meeting a client with me tomorrow, so she posted the cruise itinerary in her circle of friends. She didn't want you to misunderstand, so she came to tell you specifically. I shook my head and didn't say anything else. It's okay, and the misunderstanding doesn't matter anymore. James seemed to realize that I wasn't very happy and offered to hand me the menu. You said you wanted to come to this restaurant before, but you've been busy with work, and today you finally have time to come. I nodded and took the menu, but it was all in French and I couldn't read it. Sophia was watching me from the side, as if she had been waiting for me to ask her. I'm not picky, so you can order whatever you like. Sophia took the menu with a smile and said, James often comes here with me, so I'll order for us. I understood what she meant. She was showing off, the kind of restaurant James usually didn't bring me to, but she came here a lot. James, who was sitting next to her, didn't show any emotion on his face, but his eyes kept on staring at Sophia. I saw their interaction and got up to go to the bathroom. When I came out, I unexpectedly met an old classmate. He greeted me enthusiastically and noticed James and Sophia sitting at the table. He walked over to me, joking, you and Sophia are really together now. I couldn't believe it when I heard from the monitor that you were getting married. James, I remember when you and Sophia broke up. I bet that you would never get married. You see, I was right, wasn't I? When is your wedding? I'm going to New York for business at the same time, so I'll be there. I didn't say anything, I just laughed. After all, the 2 people at the table looked really good together. I felt like I was in the way. I took my bag and left, making up some excuse. When I was waiting for a taxi in front of the restaurant, James caught up with me. Emily, don't get me wrong. As I said earlier, I married you, and Sophia is just my secretary. I quietly let go of James's hand. His hand had just touched Sophia. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, and I just don't feel clean. James, you can actually think again. I don't have to marry you. I didn't want to hear any more of James's explanations, so I got straight into the car and left. Sitting in the car, I hesitated whether to go home to pack or find somewhere to eat first. At that moment, I received a call from Lily. Emily, don't you want to go back to Chicago? Michael from Chicago is here tonight. Come over quickly. You didn't have to come to the previous party, but you must come to this one today. I used to dislike attending these kinds of events, and Lily agreed. After all, I do technical work, and as long as the technology is done well, I can casually attend these kinds of social events. Lily is particularly concerned about me. When I told her I wanted to go back to Chicago, she was very sorry. If I stay in New York, I can be promoted to Vice President of Technology in New York next quarter. Without saying no, I asked the driver to take me directly to the address Lily gave me. When I arrived, I realized it wasn't a place to eat, but a bar. After getting used to the music inside and weaving through the intertwined booths, I finally found Lily, who was already a little drunk. She leaned over and told me that this was the person in charge of the company in Chicago. Lily wants to help me get a position as a technical vice president in Chicago. I'm very grateful for her support, so I asked her to sit down. Looking up, I noticed that the head of the company looks a little familiar. Michael, long time no see. You still have such good taste. The man in front of me is leaning back in a sofa chair, smiling and raising his glass to touch it with mine. The company's Michael is from Chicago, and he was actually my classmate in college. Actually, we were in the same year, but he only minored in computer science and joined the teacher's research group in the second year. After joining the research group, my senior kept on chatting with me, which I found quite annoying at the time. After graduation, I heard from other classmates that Michael actually wanted to woo me. Unfortunately, I was only focused on my studies at the time. Besides, I liked James at the time. After many years, he still looks the same as before, full of energy and a bit mischievous. Senior, I've always wondered why you haven't shown up in the circle over the years. I never thought you'd be doing so well in New York. The familiar banter reduced the awkwardness between us. There were other colleagues nearby, so we didn't talk too much. When the alcohol kicked in, I realized it was already the early hours of the morning. I'll go first. Where are you staying? Do you need me to book a hotel for you? I asked politely, out of respect for Michael. After all, he was now my boss. I thought he would refuse so that I could leave, but he said, Senior, in that case, why don't you take me to the hotel next door? I'm a little drunk, so could you check me in? This request, if made by a superior to a subordinate, is really not a problem. But if I say yes, I really don't know what to say. After all, I'm not single anymore, and going to a hotel with another man to help him check in doesn't seem appropriate. But if I think about it from another perspective, this is just work, and I'm innocent. Besides, maybe I should have broken up with James a long time ago. We've been together for so many years, and as he said, he should have been tired of me a long time ago. Even if he knew, I don't think he would care. He might even think I'm overreacting. I raised an eyebrow and looked at the assistant next to him to see if he was joking. Michael didn't mince words. He took my bag and said hello to the people around us before leading me out of the bar. Once we were outside, I noticed that I had a dozen missed calls on my phone, all from James. He had been looking for me. I was debating whether to call you to let you know I was safe when Michael next to me became unsteady. I had to support him as we went to the hotel next door to check in. Michael, where's your ID? Michael next to me, whether genuinely or not, handed me his wallet. Thanks, sister. Michael smiled very attractively, but I just found him irritating. I finally found the ID card and helped him with the room card when my phone rang again. It was James. I handed the room card to Michael while answering James's call. Where are you? James's voice sounded a little angry. I'm busy at work. I'll be back later. Before, James often didn't come back until midnight, and I called him many times, and Sophia answered the phone. She told me that James was working. I never thought that the situation would be reversed now. I glanced at Michael next to me and saw that he was indeed busy working, so I wasn't lying. Are you really working? The anger in the other person's voice became even more obvious. I clearly wasn't doing anything, so why was he angry? Yes, I'm working. Before he could finish speaking, he grabbed my hand and the phone fell to the ground. Michael next to me helped me pick up the phone. James stormed over to me and blocked Michael. Emily, is this what you mean by working, staying in a hotel with someone at night? Michael tried to explain, but James pushed him. Michael, who was trying to explain, also became angry, and it looked like the two of them were about to fight. I shook James's hand off and stopped them. That's enough, James. You don't need to make a scene here. James was so shocked that he only turned his head to look at me. I never expected him to get so angry. James, who is usually so calm, was behaving in a particularly ungentlemanly way by causing a scene in the hotel. He whispered to me, "Did this really have to happen? Emily, do you remember that you are my girlfriend? Do you remember that we are getting married next month?" James's state of mind reminded me of the day we first met in New York. The music was loud at the alumni party. After a few drinks, I suddenly saw James, which made me sober up. We exchanged pleasantries as old friends do, and I was looking for an opportunity to leave. Before long, my name suddenly rang out clearly over the music. "Emily, long time no see, why don't you say hi to me?" James's smile was no different from when we were in college. He doesn't smile often, but when he does, it's like a glacier melting in the sun, so warm and irresistible. Long time no see. He came up to me, put his arm around my shoulders, and then we clinked glasses. I knew what was going to happen. His casual remark caught me off guard, and I thought he might have had too much to drink. But then she said something that made me blush. "I know you liked me back then, didn't you?" My heart sank. I didn't know whether to deny it, to argue with her, or just nod politely and walk away, leaving her with my back. James didn't give me a choice. He leaned in and gave me a kiss with a slight alcoholic tinge. His eyes were clearly flirting. My rational mind told me to avoid him, but my body wanted to respond first. James probably still thinks I'm the same obedient girl I was back then. As soon as he speaks, I blush, and as soon as he touches me, I immediately avoid him. But I'm not the same person anymore. Over the years, I went to college, did a postgraduate degree, and had a not-so-great relationship. I understand that it's not a big deal to get caught up in this state. It's okay, you can just blame it on the state after drinking and let it go. After all, I'm in New York and James is in Chicago, so there won't be many opportunities to meet up afterwards. James was a bit surprised. He stopped what he was doing, smiled and joked with me, "Emily, after all these years, you're still the same." I admit, I had a little ulterior motive, but when James tried to take things further, I pushed him away. "So what? This has nothing to do with you. I'm in New York and you're in Chicago anyway." As soon as I said that, James put his arm around me and, amid the jeers of his friends, led me away from the party. It was a little cold outside, and he told me that he wanted to stay in New York. This sentence brought me back to reality. James finished his drink, threw the bottle on the ground, and whispered, "I broke up with Sophia. I've sensed that you have a crush on me since college. Emily, will you be my girlfriend?" This sudden confession and news of his breakup took me by surprise. I finally understood why James was acting so strangely. At this point, my senses returned. "So you came here to joke with me because you broke up with Sophia? James, what do you take me for?" I was very angry after being teased, and the words that came out of my mouth made the atmosphere awkward. I called a taxi and turned to leave, determined to ignore James. But he caught up with me. "Sorry, I was wrong just now. I've got the number plate of the taxi. Call me when you get home to let me know you've arrived safely." He was always so caring and attentive. Sophia and I were very different. Sophia was delicate and pretty, while I was just quietly standing next to her, like a foil. While everyone else ignored me, James was able to notice me. When he saw Sophia, he would bring her cupcakes and also bring me one. Every time I waited for him downstairs in the dormitory, he would hug Sophia while flirtatiously asking me if he could walk me to the library. At that time, I envied Sophia, but I never wanted to replace her. I knew that he liked Sophia, not me. I didn't expect them to break up, and I never imagined that James would actually stay in New York. He chased after me for more than half a year, and even kept pestering me. We only confirmed our relationship when I was sure that he wasn't joking and that he really liked me. Since then, we have tacitly stopped talking about Sophia. James and I have lived in New York for 7 years and have finally decided to get married. These 7 years have been like a beautiful dream, and now we are finally starting a new life. What? Are you speechless? James waved his hand to get me out of my memories. "Forget it, Emily, let's go home first, and we can talk about it when we get home." He said this with particular emphasis on going home, as if to remind everyone of our relationship. The James in front of me is very similar to the one from 7 years ago. However, now I understand why he chose me in the first place, because he wanted to heal the wounds in his heart. Otherwise, I don't think our deep feelings for each other could have collapsed instantly because of Sophia's appearance. The care he is showing now is actually just possessiveness. James took my hand and tried to lead me away. As before, I shook his hand off. I took the phone Michael had given me and saw that Michael had been punched by James. His face was a little swollen. He apologized and said, "Sorry, do you want me to take you to the hospital?" Michael raised his eyebrows and jokingly said, "Senior sister, so it turns out your boyfriend is him." I thought after all these years, I finally had a chance. James became agitated again when he heard this, and pulled me from Michael's view to stand behind him. Michael was not to be outdone, grabbing James by the collar of his shirt. I could see a fight was about to break out, and I couldn't stand it. "That's enough, both of you. Calm down and don't get excited, okay? James, you go back first. I'll help Michael treat his wound before we set off." James wanted to say something, but seeing that I wasn't even looking at him, he just left a comment about waiting for me at the door before turning around and leaving. I let out a sigh of relief and asked the hotel reception for a first aid kit. Then I told Michael to sit on the sofa in the lobby and let me examine his wound. Michael obediently sat down. I carefully examined the wound on his face and repeatedly asked him if there was anything else that was bothering him. "Senior, do you still have feelings for him?" Michael suddenly asked. I packed up the medical kit in my hands and didn't answer. I never thought that James and Michael had actually seen the affection that I thought I had hidden well back then. "Rest well and contact me if anything happens." I watched Michael get into the elevator before turning and leaving the hotel. When I reached the hotel entrance, James was still waiting for me there. He looked like a child waiting outside the house after a fight and refusing to go in. The anger I had just now had turned into grievance and resentment. I was so angry that I couldn't get into the car. I couldn't unlock the door and couldn't open it. "Didn't you say you wanted to go home?" He finally understood and got into the car without saying a word. When he saw that I was dressed lightly, he handed me his jacket while I was fastening my seat belt. However, I could smell Sophia's perfume on the jacket. "No, I don't think it's clean." When we got home, James seemed to want to say something to me, but I was so tired that I just wanted to rest. After I showered, I lay down on the bed and got ready for bed. James was still in the bathroom, and the sound of the water dripping could be heard. I remembered how he had hurriedly explained when he heard me say that he was dirty. I heard that it was because Sophia's clothes had been accidentally wet, so he lent her his jacket. He even promised me that he would never lend his clothes to others in the future. I had also noticed before that James' clothes smelled of Sophia, so I asked him what was going on. He just told me not to worry about it. I asked him so many times that he actually found me quite annoying. "It's just a jacket, what does it mean?" It really doesn't mean anything special. Today I told James exactly what he had said, and it left him speechless. I looked away from James' jacket, and my phone rang. It was Michael, sending me a message. He told me to rest well and that he was safe. He also sent me some documents briefly introducing the company in Chicago. I was going to read them tomorrow, but since I wasn't sleepy, I clicked on the files Michael sent me. They contained the company structure, the team situation, and the current status of several important projects. I looked through them and didn't see James, who had finished his shower and was lying next to me. "What are you reading?" His voice came from behind me. "Nothing. It's late. I'll turn off my phone and get some rest." "Were you just talking to Michael?" I didn't want to answer him, but I was afraid he'd get the wrong idea, so I said it was work. After a while of silence, I thought James must have fallen asleep, but then he suddenly put his arms around me and pulled me close to him. "After all the years we've been together, I know what he wants. Unfortunately, I don't want it." His head rested on my shoulder, and his breath brushed my ear. Tiny kisses tickled my neck. James and I haven't been this close for a long time. I can't help but want to hide, to make him stop. His voice has become even lower. I can feel him holding back his anger. "Why are you avoiding me? I remember we're getting married next month." I don't want to answer this question. "James, you're smarter than me. You should understand that I no longer want to marry you. I don't want those bad things." I woke up the next day and found that James had already left the house. I was a little confused when I saw the breakfast he had prepared for me on the table. What did James want to say? If he still liked Sophia, there was no need for him to pretend to be affectionate in front of me. After all, they were only planning to get married, and no decision had been made yet. I felt that I had been really stupid over the past year. I had been very concerned about James, so whenever there was a conflict between Sophia and James, it ended up being an unpleasant situation. At first, James thought I was jealous and it made him feel uncomfortable. He would comfort me and say I didn't need to worry because it was me he loved. Later, as it happened more and more often, I became a bit unreasonable, overly concerned, and paranoid. In contrast, Sophia showed James that she understood and cared for him. She appeared considerate and gentle, and even seemed to be standing on a moral high ground. Thinking about it now, it was really silly. If James really cared about me, he should have taken the initiative to draw a clear line with me. Instead of saying he cares about me, he actually does something inappropriate. James is willing to let me check his phone, and his chats with Sophia are really all about work. But at work, Sophia sometimes acts spoiled, and from time to time asks him to bring her flowers before work. Every time James goes out with Sophia, he tells me in advance. But after I know, he justifies not replying to my messages or answering my calls. When work gets busy, things are much simpler. Things that make you angry or upset are ultimately trivial. I put James' breakfast aside. I simply have no appetite. James, who was supposed to go out, happens to come back just in time and sees me pushing the breakfast aside. He asks me carefully, "Is it not delicious?" He is still carrying quite a lot of groceries in his hands. I nod, not wanting to ask him what he bought, because in front of my parents, I have already explained for James and his parents many times about their absence, and my parents have long since known that I have no face in front of James. Their attitude made it clear to me that the reality is to break up with James. "Then let's go eat something." He put down the things in his hands and pulled me out the door. It wasn't until then that I realized that he had driven for 20 minutes and found a breakfast restaurant hidden in an alley. Seeing my puzzled expression, he pulled out his phone and found the post I had sent him 6 months ago. In it, I mentioned wanting to have breakfast at this breakfast restaurant. At that time, James was on business trips with Sophia almost every day, and although he had promised me many times, he always ended up breaking the promise. Now it seems that this might be his way of making amends. After learning what he meant, I couldn't help but smile. The breakfast restaurant was very crowded, and I had to wait a long time, but the taste wasn't that good. James could tell I wasn't very hungry, and he apologized to me. He said, "I thought you'd like it. It's okay, we can try something else next time." He actually knew the reason why I posted those messages to him before, which was that I hoped to spend more time with him. On the way back, he kept looking for topics to chat about. He just went around in circles, saying nothing. Finally, I couldn't help but interrupt him. "James, just say what's on your mind." After parking the car, he turned to me and said, "I already got a reply from the office, but you haven't, have you? Emily, you've given up your permanent residency and aren't planning to stay in New York. Are you going back to Chicago? You're disappointed in me and want to leave, is that it?" I really don't understand how he could know my plans so quickly. It was just one night and morning, and he managed to figure out all my arrangements. That's normal. After all, he is James. If he wants to, he can find out everything about my movements and plans. I could hear the pressure in James's voice. I didn't reply. He started the car again and headed towards Manhattan. We didn't speak the whole way, and it wasn't until we arrived that we realized it was the airport. He even knew the flight time of my parents. Last time, he made my parents wait at the airport for 10 hours, and in the end, he just casually said they didn't need to come, which was really disappointing. This time, he not only bought things, but also drove to pick people up. It turns out that this is the difference between caring and not caring. James said calmly, "I checked. My aunt and uncle's flight arrived on time. My parents will be out of the country for a few days, but I have already spoken to them, and I can make decisions for them. Our marriage will not change in any way. I know that I may not have paid much attention to you recently, but I don't think I have let you down. Sophia is just my secretary. There is nothing between us." I believe what James said. I believe he didn't really betray me. There must be something between him and Sophia. Otherwise, his phone hasn't stopped ringing since morning. I just saw, all the calls and messages are from Sophia. Answer the phone, company matters are more important. After I pick up my parents, I'll take them for a tour of Manhattan, and we'll talk over dinner tonight. I arranged it like a subordinate reporting to work, trying to do my best. James wanted to say something, but stopped when he saw the message on his phone. I could feel that this time it was really important, unlike before when he was just trying to please me. "Go ahead, I believe you." James forced a smile after hearing that. He helped me hail a cab. I wrote down the license plate number and told him to let me know when he arrived safely, wherever he was going. The familiar concern felt different now. As I watched him leave, I realized that I was surprisingly calm. It turns out that if you stop caring, you really don't feel as bad as you used to. After picking up my parents, I took them around Manhattan for the whole day. In order to focus on them, I deliberately didn't check my phone or respond to the messages James sent. When it was time for dinner, I remembered that we had a dinner date and answered James's call. "Emily, something has come up here, and I don't think I'll be able to make it to dinner with your parents." I could tell from his tone that he was sorry. I knew it was a difficult situation, otherwise he wouldn't have bothered to call. "Okay, you go ahead." I had actually been thinking about it for a while. My parents were here, but James wasn't. Moving back to Chicago for work was going really well, thanks to Michael. I had set the start date for the following month. I planned to send my parents back and take this opportunity to travel and relax. For the past 7 years, I have done my best to be worthy of James. I have tried to prove that although I am not as outstanding or good-looking as Sophia, I have my own career to be proud of. Unfortunately, I later discovered that James still prefers Sophia. Fortunately, I have not given up my own work. Now that I have lost James, I will feel sad and reluctant, but I still have my own life to support and protect me. My parents were especially happy to see that I had finally come to terms with it. I had wanted to stay in New York for a few more days, but when I found out that I was going back to Chicago, they dragged me back the next day. I packed quickly. Apart from my clothes and work documents, there was basically nothing I had to take with me. I didn't expect James to go straight to the police station on the day I left. He wanted to transfer Sophia to another position, but she refused to accept it. She even climbed to the top of the company building and threatened to jump to her death. I heard that Sophia had a lot of intimate photos of them and threatened to kill herself if James didn't agree to marry her. That day, everyone around us was discussing this matter and it was very lively. While James was busy dealing with all this, I had already boarded the flight back to Chicago with my parents. I was still shocked when a friend called to tell me that Sophia had really jumped off the building. I never expected her to care about James so much. You don't know how nervous I was that day. My friend told me in detail what happened that day over the phone. Did you think that James had cheated on you? In fact, he probably really didn't. Sophia said that the intimate photos she was talking about, she didn't even take them out before jumping off the building. And when James went up to talk to Sophia that day, everything he said was on your side. He said that you were his wife and that you had come to New York to develop your career because of him. My friend was nagging me on the phone, but I saw a message from James, and my heart sank. Emily, are you really leaving? Do you think this is something you can decide on your own? I don't agree with you just disappearing like this. His tone was very firm, and it made me feel bad. I told my parents that I still had some work to finish, and booked a flight back to New York that night. When the flight arrived, it was already the early hours of the morning. At the airport, I saw James, who had come to pick me up. He looked tired, his shirt was crumpled, and his eyes were red. As soon as we met, he hugged me tightly. I didn't know what to say, so I just let him hold me. After a while, he let go of me. We got into the car in silence. I didn't know where he was taking me until the car stopped in front of the bar where we had reunited in New York. I was very tired after a long day and didn't want to fool around with him. Before entering the bar, I tried to break free of his grip, but James was unusually firm this time. I tried to break free several times, but he always held me back. The people at the bar noticed and someone whistled at James, clearly provoking him. Hey, man, even the pretty girl doesn't want to go in with you. What's the point of forcing her? James responded calmly, this has nothing to do with you. James responded without mercy. It looked like a conflict was about to break out, so I had to apologize to the other side and drag James inside. It was noisy and chaotic inside. James put his arm around me and led me to a quiet corner of the bar. What do you want? I don't want anything. James looked at me a little lost. He put Sophia's transfer file and the statement she made at the police station that day in front of me. Nothing happened between Sophia and me. Why did you just leave? Can you give me another chance? James' question made me laugh a little. James and I were meeting here because he had broken up with Sophia. He had been hurt by Sophia and came to talk to me. Now he was choosing me over Sophia. James didn't know that Sophia had called me before. I hadn't seen her, but I could hear how sad she was. She kept talking about everything she and James had been through at university, and how much they had loved each other. I understood, because I had seen it with my own eyes. So I told Sophia quite frankly that I knew. At that, Sophia laughed on the other end of the line. She said she had tried many times, but James was really good and had never done anything too much. She hadn't really believed that James would really like me, but she hadn't expected that 7 years could really bring about such a big change. She said I should thank her. Without her, no one would have believed that James really loved me so much. I believe you. I looked at James in front of me and replied softly, so what? I still don't think you're very clean. James smiled helplessly and slowly let go of the hand he had been holding tightly. I should have known you would say that, he thought. We came out of the bar, and the wind outside took away the dullness inside. Do you know why I brought you here? I think I can guess. It's actually a way of saying that where you start is where you end up. Did you think that we met here by chance? James saw my confused expression and laughed. No, New York is so big. How could you say that you met by chance? Emily, believe it or not, the coincidence you think may have been planned by someone else. I just don't know why we've become like this. We returned together to the home we had lived in for 7 years. When I went back, I saw that the originally empty dresser and closet were full. He had bought the groceries I usually used and filled the bedroom. If I could do it all over again, he asked me one last question before going to bed. I didn't answer, but gave him a gentle kiss on the forehead as my response. Then I rolled over and got ready for bed, and we didn't speak again that night. The next day, he sent me to the airport. The tacit understanding we had built up over the years meant we didn't dwell on it. Only a good ending can lead to a good beginning. My life was filled with busy work. James and I were just like ordinary friends, occasionally in touch. I heard that he planned to relocate the company's business back to Chicago over the next 3 years. I don't know how long it was, but one afternoon after work, I walked out of the company. Facing the sunset, I saw James. I hadn't seen him in a long time. Well, long time no see. My wedding ring sparkled in the sunlight. Michael came out of the office and gave me a tight hug. He handed me the flowers he had just bought and greeted James. I complained a little to Michael about how long it had taken him to buy the flowers. Michael laughed and pulled a bag out of his back pocket, as if to say, "What took you so long?" "I went and bought these. You did say you were running low." Michael and I were flirting there, and I laughed at how good he was at it. After a while, I realized that James was still there. He smiled and looked at Michael and me. In the end, we all lived quite decently. On the day we parted, James asked how we had become like this. Perhaps he has found the answer now. James and I once promised to be happy together forever, but at a fork in the road, he got lost. I waited at that place for 7 years, until I was exhausted. Perhaps the best ending for us is just what we have now, without dwelling on the right and wrongs of the past, moving on and starting a new journey on our own.